All right, guys, we've got a major update when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2, in addition to some Nintendo Switch 1 updates as well, and a very unfortunate thing when it comes to the price of the Nintendo Switch 2, because Nintendo is upping the price of the system pretty much worldwide by around $50, but it is a little bit different depending on what region you're in. So we're going to go down all of that. In addition to the big news with games like Tomodachi Life, Pokemon Fire Red, Leaf Green, Pokemon Pocopia, the Nintendo Switch 2 system itself when it comes to the sales, and the Nintendo Switch 1 as it inches closer and closer to potentially being the best-selling system of all time. But before we continue on, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2. All you have to do to enter is hit that subscribe button if you aren't already subscribed, and drop a comment below. We are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 once we hit 150,000 subscribers, and it will be random. So the more that you actually comment and interact, the better chance that you have to win. Hit that like button, click that notification bell, and let's go ahead and jump right back into it. Let's go ahead and start off here with the big news of the price increase for the Nintendo Switch 2. Once again, there's good news and bad news. Let's just start off with the bad news first, then the good news. So here in the United States, the Nintendo Switch 2 is currently $449.99. The revised price will be $500, so $499.99. Now in Canada, the price is already high. It's $629.99. The revised price will now be $679.99. That's Canadian for that one. Now in Europe, a little bit different, but the value of the money is different there. So the current My Nintendo store price will be €469.99. The new price now is €499.99. So unfortunately, it's up pretty much in all regions here. You never want to see price increases. Even in Japan, it's went up by like 10,000 yen or something. Switch 1 and Switch 2 went up in Japan. And I think in Japan as well, the online service also went up a bit as well. Not a lot, but it did go up. So never like to see price increases. I don't think it's a good idea for price increases. Nintendo does say due to market conditions, that's the reason why. So because of RAM or shipping, whatever the case is, they all give the same type of thing when it comes down to that. Now it's only $50, which definitely isn't as much as other companies has done, like Microsoft and Sony, or even the handheld PC market that's out there, but you still never like to see any price increases. Now, the good news when it comes to this is a bunch of other stuff that we're going to talk about. So the good news is that the effective date of the price revisions in the United States, Canada, and Europe is September 1st. So we are in May as of right now that I'm recording this video. So there are still multiple months left. If you want to get a Nintendo Switch 2, you can start saving up if you don't have anything right now to get it before September 1st. And of course, if you were planning on getting one, now you know exactly when, okay, I have up until this time before the price does increase by $50. Now, I would hope that Nintendo would also have some like Black Friday or holiday discounts, bundles coming back with Mario Kart World, something to kind of supplement that. Because I always state, when it comes to marketing, always announce that price increase in the first half of the year. Don't wait to the next half of the year to do it, so there's bad news before the holiday season ramps up. Do it in the first half. So they're getting it done now, but once again, I do not like, nor do I advocate for price increases, but I guess the investors got what they wanted, because apparently they were complaining about the price not being higher considering the sales of the Nintendo Switch 2, which we're going to get into right now at this point. So unfortunate that the price is going up, but at the same time, there is also ample time to get the Nintendo Switch 2 if you want one. It doesn't start till September 1st. Another thing that people were saying with this is that, yes, it's unfortunate when it comes to the price of the system. However, with the new revised pricing model that Nintendo does have for physical games, where we are seeing $10 off digital, and we're also seeing Amazon and Walmart match the digital pricing with physical, that's not bad at all. The new Star Fox game, for example, that's going to be $50 digital, and it's also going to be $50 physical at Walmart and at Amazon. So that's not bad. And of course, Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, that's going to be $70.60. And once again, Walmart and Amazon are matching that digital price at $60. So while you do get a price increase when it comes to the system, we are seeing prices go down a bit when it comes to the games that are usually $70 a pop on that one. So let's talk about some of those games, because there was a lot to go over when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 games, in addition to the actual system sales. So Switch 2 hardware sales are at 19.86 million, and the Nintendo Switch 1 sales have topped 155.92 million. So that's a total of 2.49 million Switch 2 hardware and 10.78 million software were sold during the 3 months ended on March 31st, 2026, while a total of 0.55 million Switch 1 hardware and 27.98 million software were sold in that time frame when it comes to January to the end of March. That's where these sales go to, although we do have some sales numbers for software titles that go past the end of March, which we will get into. And I think an interesting thing with these numbers as well is that Nintendo was able to hit their goal of 19 million units, actually passed it, and that's without a brand new 3D Mario, without a brand new 3D Zelda, without a Super Smash Brothers, or a brand new Animal Crossing. So I do think that's pretty impressive in its own right, all things considered, especially when stacked up against Nintendo Switch 1, where Nintendo is forecasting by the end of March next year that they're going to have around 36 million plus units sold, which would be outpacing the Switch 1's first 2 years compared side to side. I want to go over the top 10 real quick when it comes to Switch 2 software and Switch 1 hardware. In at number 5, Kirby Air Riders, 1.87 million, Pokemon Pocopia, 2.41 million. But we did get an update from Nintendo saying that the global cumulative sell-through through 5 weeks of the release for Pokemon Pocopia is over 4 million units. So keep that in mind. 2.41 here at the end of March, but actually over 4 million units when it comes to sell through 5 weeks afterwards. So not bad at all. Pokemon Legends ZA Switch 2 Edition at 3.94 million, Donkey Kong Bonanza at 4.52 million, and Mario Kart World at 14.70 million. Those are the top sales when it comes to that. Nintendo Switch 1, you've got the same pretty much top 10 that we've had for quite some time through Mario Kart, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. They've all inched up in various different amounts over the last quarter from what we saw before. There's also the Nintendo Switch games, the big titles that we've heard about. So Super Mario Galaxy on the Switch 1 and Switch 2. You got those sales numbers. Pokemon Legends ZA on the Nintendo Switch 1, which Nintendo does not count upgrade packs from the Switch 1 to the Switch 2 as Switch 2 sales. I think that just goes into Switch 1 sales, but obviously if you count Pokemon Legends ZA on Switch 2 and on Switch 1, it sold quite a bit. Super Mario Party Jamboree is nearing 10 million as well. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is at 17.5, right around there, a little bit underneath that. And Nintendo Switch Sports is shockingly, actually not shockingly, it's been doing well for a long time, at 18.32 million units. So pretty much a lot of good sales here and there. I do think that the Nintendo Switch 2, I estimated it at about 20.5 million units. So it was around about 600,000 units or so under what I thought it was going to be at, but Nintendo still hit their goal of 19 million units. They actually cleared it by over 860,000 units based off of what we got here. So they're still on track. We've got to see what their revised forecast is going to be. I'm guessing they're going to only think about maybe 2 to 3 million units in this next quarter. So we should see that the Nintendo Switch 2 should hit around 22 million units or so by the next financial report, and probably by the end of the year, if Ocarina of Time does launch and everything that they're planning on launching, we'll probably see around 30 million units with all of that. So overall, not bad sales results at all. A little bit low on what I thought with the Switch 2 based off my prediction, but they still hit their goal of 19 million units by the end of March. Now, I also want to go over another thing here when it comes to Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green. The global cumulative sell-through after 6 weeks is over 4 million units as well. That's download sales only. There are no physical titles. That's not bad at all at 20 bucks a pop. Obviously, that's just pure cash and like pure profit at that point, considering how old the games are and really what they are with that. And yeah, I also wanted to point out to say at Tomodachi Life, Living the Dream, that game over 3.8 million units, the global cumulative sell-through in 2 weeks after release. That is a massive game. Tomodachi Life has a ton of people that are definitely excited to play that game. 3.8 million units after 2 weeks on the market, that's probably going to be a 10 million plus selling type of game. And if they get a real Nintendo Switch 2 version out when it comes to like 4K and 120 frames, or they just get a Switch 2 version out and put that on store shelves, that can also help out with the sales of that game. So a couple different bullet points that I want to go over. Mario Tennis Fever, what's going on with that game? We did not get a million sales update. Some people have speculated that the reason why Nintendo even did this whole cheaper digital game sales and cheaper stuff when it comes down to it is because of this game not selling up to where they think it should have sold. Mario Tennis games aren't massive blockbuster sellers, but you would expect it to at least hit a million units by the end of March, like within a month or so, and we did not see that. So I don't think that was the reason why, but I do feel that the $70 price tag could have impacted the sales just a bit now that we have the results coming in here. Another thing that I wanted to talk about when it comes to what Nintendo needs to do, it's obviously getting the games out. Now we have a pretty solid lineup of games between Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. You also have Splatoon Raiders. We just got Star Fox. Once again, great prices on those. I think that with the price increase looming in September, along with the consistent flow of games and probably a Nintendo Direct coming up here in June, they can definitely do a good job of kind of getting through these summer months, selling anywhere between 2 to 3 million units per each quarter, and then getting that towards the bigger games. So the Dust Bloods, we got to see how that does. Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, we still got to look at that. In addition to that, rumored but probably real now at this point, 100% real after Nate nailed what's happening here with Star Fox, the Ocarina of Time remake. So I think that there's going to be all of that plus some surprises. I think there's going to be at least a game or two surprise. As we've seen from Nintendo, Star Fox was announced just recently in May, and it's launching a month later. And that's going to be that's a big game. It looks pretty good when it comes to the graphics and everything like that. Not saying it's the biggest game out there, but it's still quite a intensive game when you look at some of the remake stuff that they did in there. So I do think that they can drop that style of game when it comes to Nintendo. Not the biggest AAA, big Breath of the Wild style of game, but still a nice solid title for $50 or $60. They can drop those out of nowhere. They can have 1 month before it's supposed to be launched or whatever. And even if you believe that they delayed the announcement because of the leaks, still, it would have been announced sometime in April and then launching in June. So that's still a pretty short runtime when it comes to the announcement to launch. So I'm guessing Nintendo has at least 1 or 2 more of those drops that they're just going to have out of nowhere. Even at this next Nintendo Direct, I expect there to be at least a couple of games. I expect there to be maybe a game or 2 for next year. And of course, they can show off for the first time that Ocarina of Time remake. But don't be surprised if we see more remakes or remasters from old franchises, as this is one of Furukawa's big plans to help keep the flow of games coming with the Nintendo Switch 2. So I still think that we're going to see more Nintendo Switch 2 editions, but I don't think it's going to be as much as we saw within the first 10 months or so of the life of the Nintendo Switch 2. I think they're going to start moving on to actually making the software for the system. Don't get me wrong, you're going to see Nintendo Switch 2 editions here and there. I just don't think it's going to be as much. I would expect once again to see more stuff like Star Fox, more stuff like Splatoon Raiders, more stuff like Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. I think it's going to kind of go in that line with a few tentpole games kind of spread out between there. Obviously, Pokemon Pocopia ended up being a tentpole game with over 4 million units sold already at this point. That is very good for a system that's sold 19 million units. And if you're looking at what they did in that first month, not even a full month on sale, they were able to sell 2 million units plus in that first time frame. So that's really good. That's going to be a tentpole game. We're going to see how Splatoon Raiders does. I think that's going to be big in Japan and worldwide. Plus, Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, do not sleep on that game. The Dust Bloods, there's going to be some good stuff coming up, and we're going to have some more announcements here. And it's pretty consistent with the flow of games. So I think that's what Nintendo needs to do, just to kind of get by the first and second quarter. And then, of course, the third quarter, that's going to be the big proving ground to where, okay, what do you have for the holiday? What's happening there? What are you going going to do in order to kind of impress the masses and everything. So of course, Ocarina of Time Remake, we'll see what else they have as well, because of course Pokemon Winds and Waves and potentially even 3D Mario seem like they're going to be, well, Pokemon for sure is going to be 2027, and Mario is rumored to be more 2027. I would expect at least one more Mario game this year. It's probably going to be like a remaster or remake, but I would expect something when it comes to Mario, like a surprise Mario drop or Nintendo Switch 2 edition. I would not be surprised with that, so look out for a potential Mario game coming back. Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 did really well, selling 5 million units plus so far at this point, so I do think that they're going to look at maybe bringing back an older Mario game, even if it is something like Super Paper Mario or something like that from the Wii era, from a past console. I think they're going to remake or remaster or do something with some of those old games to kind of fill in the gaps, and of course just to have more Mario. You can never really have too much Mario when it comes to people buying stuff, so I do think that that's what's going to happen for the rest of the year. But yeah, that Ocarina of Time remake, that's going to be huge. I'm going to have a separate video talking about Ocarina of Time remake, because I think that game has now got a whole new, I would say, outlook based off of what we got recently with Star Fox. So we'll talk about that in a separate video. But what do you guys think about everything that we discussed here when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2, the price increase, the sales, and all of that? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this one here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.